this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happened throughout this week in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and the world. I'm Dorian Isagulov, and this is what you'll see today. Kazakhstan proposed to set a regional research center for rare earth metals and invited Italy to take part. But what are the prospects for this high-value sector? World Bank backs Kazakhstan's carbon market. What does it mean for the economy and what other projects are in the pipeline? Exclusive interview with World Bank's country manager. Trump versus Harvard through the eyes of Kazakh student. What do foreign students feel in today's America? Kazakhstan is setting its sights on the global rare earth metals market. After a high-level summit between Central Asia and Italy, the country is on the way to emerge as a strategic hub for critical minerals, a resource essential for everything from smartphones and wind turbines to electric vehicles and defense systems. In a move backed by President Kazakhstan, plans are now underway to build a regional research center for rare earth metals. According to the statement of the Kazakh Ministry of Industry and Construction, the project, backed by the European Union, aims to transform Kazakhstan into a major high-tech material supplier by the end of the decade. So, what's behind this strategic move? New Time reporter Baljan Samigulina investigates.
Yttrium, lanthanum and 13 other lanthanides, including cerium, neodymium and europium, are among the critical rare earth elements found in Kazakhstan. With global demand surging, these resources are quickly becoming a strategic asset. And now, in response to this trend, Kazakhstan, together with the European Union, is preparing to launch a regional research center for rare earth metals, an initiative aimed at positioning Central Asia as a value-added powerhouse in the mineral supply chain.
The ministry is working to fulfill the directive of President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev to establish this regional center on the basis of the National Center for Technology Foresight. With the European Union support, we are defining the research scope, planning lab infrastructure, and launching a feasibility study with the EBRD. The site will span 5 hectares in the Astana Technopolis SEZ, and we expect construction and commissioning between 2028-2029. The lab will meet international standards, support R&D, and enable Central Asian mining firms to export to highly regulated global markets.
So this initiative goes far beyond infrastructure. It's about innovation, independence and global positioning. Rare earth metals have become a top strategic priority not just for Europe but for the whole world. They're used in emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, data centers, electric vehicles and the defense industry. Experts say that by working with the European Union, Kazakhstan could move from extraction to refinement, building a high-tech pipeline for rare earth exploration, processing and application. The lab's accreditation will open doors to Western markets while attracting scientists, engineers and investors into the region. But can the region deliver on these ambitions?
Our region and our country in particular has a long way to continue its development within the rare earth sector. So we do have a developed mining sector, conventional minerals like copper and gold. We have very serious mining capacity of uranium and the expertise here. I do believe that we need to provide continuous development in this sector, and such creation of a such center is a really timely step to do that.
If realized, the regional research center could be a game changer not just for Kazakhstan but for all of Central Asia. By converting natural wealth into innovation, the region could build new industries, reduce reliance on imports and play a role in the clean energy transition. For Europe, it's a strategic partnership. For Kazakhstan, it's a chance to lead in one of the world's most vital supply chains. Experts say with the right investment, vision and cooperation, the country could soon become the bridge connecting Central Asia to the future of high-tech economy. Baljan Samigulina, Nuray Asylbek, New Time.
This week, Central Asia took another step towards strengthening regional cooperation, not through politics but through shared environmental responsibility. In Tashkent, the International Union for Conservation of Nature opened its first regional office dedicated to Central Asia. The focus: water diplomacy, transboundary rivers and environmental security. To better understand the significance of these developments, I am joined by regional affairs expert Ozhet Shegirbayev.
Hello, Dorian.
So, Ozhet, what do you think of this initiative? What's the broader meaning behind this decision?
Well, the IUCN office will be located at the Central Asian University for Environmental Studies and Climate Change. It's expected that the office will help establish close ties between the scientific community and engage students, young scientists and researchers in the work of this international organization. The office will operate throughout the Central Asian region and will contribute to addressing environmental challenges in all countries of this region. Its activities will focus on training specialists, sharing experiences, and organizing some internships for staff of environmental agencies. It's also expected to support the implementation of joint nature conservation initiatives, the introduction of international standards in the cataloging of Uzbekistan's and Central Asian unique flora and fauna, and of course the certification of the country's protected areas under the International Green Standard. But more on this and other key developments in the region you will find in my weekly segment Central Asia in Focus just in a moment. A regional office of the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, for Central Asia has opened at the Green University in Tashkent. This office will be engaged in a comprehensive study of environmental issues specific to the 5 countries of the region. As part of its work, the office will develop recommendations for the governments of Central Asian states on preventing and mitigating environmental impacts, as well as supporting relevant initiatives. The IUCN plans to launch a number of projects in the region. Notably, under the Blue Peace Central Asia 2.0 program, the organization aims to promote the development of water diplomacy and improve the environmental status of the transboundary river basins. A few years ago, the IUCN already initiated a unique project in Kazakhstan aimed at preserving the goitroid gazelle, a rare and vulnerable species of antelope native to the steppe and the semi-desert areas. And another significant development in regional water management was the signing of a trilateral protocol on the use of the Bashi-Tochik reservoir. The document was signed by Kazakhstan's Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, Mr. Nurjan Nurjigitov, along with his counterparts from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. The agreement covers the period from June to August 2025, with Kazakhstan expected to receive up to 491 million cubic meters of water at the peak of the growing season. The protocol includes an operational schedule for the reservoir and aims to ensure the efficient and balanced distribution of water among the 3 countries. The meeting of the ministries and the signing of the protocol took place in Dushanbe on the sidelines of the International Conference on Glacier Protection. Overall, these recent developments reflect the region's increasingly serious approach to climate change and water resource preservation. As a result, we are witnessing the strengthening of water diplomacy in Central Asia. On June 5th, a meeting of the heads of governments of the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, took place in Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan. Prime Minister of Kazakhstan, Iljas Bektenov, represented Kazakhstan. The heads of governments approved several strategic documents, including the concepts for the development of cooperation in the light industry sector, for harmonizing national air traffic management, and for cooperation in public health among CIS member states. The agenda also included an agreement on the development of heavy machinery and an updated concept for public health cooperation, which outlines the initiatives to preserve and strengthen public health and promote healthy lifestyles, according to the government's press service. Additionally, documents on cultural and humanitarian cooperation within the CIS were reviewed. Among them was a regulation on the CIS Volunteer Forum, which aims to establish a legal framework for the development of volunteer movements. Overall, the CIS continues to serve as an important platform for discussing a broad range of cooperative initiatives. This week, the President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, signed the law which ratifies the updated investment protection agreement with Kyrgyzstan. The agreement itself was signed on April 19, 2024, during the official visit of the President of Kyrgyzstan to Astana. The law outlines the terms and procedures for creating a favorable environment to strengthen economic cooperation between the two countries. It specifically addresses investment cooperations and operations conducted by one party within the territory of the other, and provides a framework for resolving investment-related issues in both countries. Generally, since 2005, Kazakhstan has invested more than 1.3 billion of USD to Kyrgyzstan's economy. Strategic partnership with Kyrgyzstan opens a new opportunity for further regional integration in Central Asia and contributes to strengthening the ties between the peoples of both nations. Kazakhstan company Kazakh has announced that by 2030, around 37 border checkpoints in Kazakhstan will be modernized. Currently, construction has begun at 6 sites located on the borders with Kyrgyzstan and Russia, including Besagash, Karasu, Aimbet, Zhanazhol, and Kosak checkpoints. 6 additional projects are also under consideration, namely Taskala, Irtobe, Khurmg'azı, Aksay, Qayrak, and Kamyshanovka. The modernization of these checkpoints is expected to enhance Kazakhstan's transit potential and create more favorable conditions for freight transporters. Well, that's all from my part, Davrian. Giving the floor back to you.
Thank you very much. It was political expert Ozhet Shigerbayev with his weekly segment Central Asia in Focus. The World Bank has revised Kazakhstan's income classification. According to the latest update, the country has officially joined the group of upper-middle income nations, alongside China, Turkey and Malaysia. Amid these positive developments, the World Bank is expanding its cooperation with Kazakhstan. In the coming years, over $2 billion will be invested in upgrading the country's transport infrastructure, from key highways in the south to major railway hubs near Almaty. An additional $4.8 million will go toward developing Kazakhstan's domestic carbon market. The country remains the first in Central Asia to launch a national emissions trading system. What are the World Bank's strategic priorities for our region, and what lies ahead for Kazakhstan and its neighbors on the road to COP30? We discuss these questions with Andrei Mikhnov, the World Bank's country manager for Kazakhstan, on the sidelines of Astana International Forum. Please take a look. Mr. Mikhnov, welcome to Astana International Forum. Thank you that you agreed to do this interview. Let me ask this question. What is your message for Astana International Forum ahead of COP30? And what do you expect from Central Asian countries on climate agenda?
First of all, thank you for inviting me and giving me opportunity to share a few thoughts from our side. I think Astana International Forum already got a reputation of the international gathering where world leaders and regional leaders put ahead really the most important priorities and challenges. And the slogan of this year, Astana Forum, about shaping the future, I think is a key to understand what the key messages we should put forward. In preparation for the COP30, it's again here in the Astana Forum, the climate agenda was highlighted as the highest priority. I think for me, it's important to see that it's not anymore recognition that climate is the issue. We passed this stage. I think we need to talk about climate actions and how these actions could be done by various countries. So it's not efforts in one country. So one of the main messages I think could be here, and there will be also a session I'll be participating, is what needs to be done to really make an climate actions, to make the efforts to address the climate agenda. I think the second important, to do these actions, you need to have a great mechanism for financing. It's not only country financing, but the private sector financing. But in order for the private sector investment, you need to ensure there is a mechanism to attract this investment. So I think this is the conversation about how to ensure, how to greening finance for climate. That would be the main topic I would like to address.
Talking about finance, in March of this year, a World Bank launched $4.8 million to the Kazakhstan's carbon market. So what changes do we anticipate in few years?
I think this is good indication importance of the issue and how the World Bank address it. Indeed, for Kazakhstan, we believe as one of the leader in certain areas in the region, we want to be sure that we have actions supported with the financing and international experience. That particular grant will be focusing on advancing the emission trading system in Kazakhstan, because that's important mechanism to ensure that there is a mechanism to reduce the carbon footprint and people could trade the carbon emission. And therefore, it's really for the big emitters would be incentives to reduce their footprint and invest in more climate-friendly technologies.
Kambarata 1 is another World Bank-backed hydro project here. So why is it crucial for Central Asian region, this specific project?
It's a good question, because that's one of the transformational projects. It's not only hydropower plant. Of course, it will produce stable, reliable, and green energy, not only for one country where it's located in Kyrgyzstan, it's also for other countries in the region. But in addition to that, what is also important, it's about the water projects. It was allow to much more efficient use of scarce water resources. And I think Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan particularly, will be, together with Kyrgyzstan, would be the main beneficiary of this great initiative.
I know you don't have much time. I've got one last question, if you don't mind. Your new One Health initiative, it covers the region. How much funding will Kazakhstan receive, and why will it matter for people on the ground?
This is a regional initiative. At the first phase, which was just approved by the board of directors of the World Bank, the first two countries to go there will be Kyrgyz Republic and Tajikistan. I think in the second stage, the Kazakhstan will come also to this regards. We are using the combination of lending resources and grant for this initiative, because health issue, animal health, human health, and an environmental impact, the challenges, they don't have borders. As we saw in the pandemic, for instance, COVID pandemic, doesn't matter where it starts or where it's going, all countries are affected. So we believe through One Health initiative, we create a good system in Central Asia, regardless of the country, which could help prevent further zoonotic diseases and spread of that, and prepare for the future pandemic. So we expect Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan will join the second phase of this project and really showing the way to other countries across Central Asia and beyond how this issue could be addressed.
What you're doing is extremely important for our country, for the region itself. So thank you very much for your job and for this interview. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
The International Monetary Fund has evaluated Kazakhstan's economic performance and future outlook. The report highlights a 6% real GDP growth in the first 4 months of 2025, surpassing the previous year's 4.8%. This growth was driven by strong performance in construction, transport, services and industry. However, experts warn that growth could moderate to around 5% by year-end due to declining oil prices and weaker demand from trading partners. Inflation remains a pressing concern, reaching nearly 11% in April. In response, the IMF recommends maintaining a tight monetary policy to gradually ease inflationary pressure. It was also noted that the banking system is generally stable. However, the rapid growth of consumer loans requires careful monitoring. In its concluding remarks, the IMF underscored that sustained economic growth will depend on continued reforms and the expansion of private enterprise. The second round of talks between Russian and Ukrainian delegations concluded this week in Istanbul, but a ceasefire remains out of reach. Officially, both sides agreed to a major prison exchange on a 1,000 for 1,000 basis and to draft individual memorandums outlining their respective peace proposals. Ukraine also handed over a list of children it wants returned from Russian-controlled territory. According to a published draft of the Russian memorandum, the Kremlin is demanding the international recognition of its control over Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporozhye and Kharkiv regions, as well as the complete withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from Russia's Kursk and Belgorod regions. In addition, Russia is calling for an end to Western military aid to Ukraine, the demobilization of Ukrainian forces and the immediate holding of presidential elections. Commenting on the outcome of the talks, President Vladimir Zelensky proposed a temporary ceasefire at least until a face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin can be arranged. He called Russia's conditions an ultimatum.
Якщо президент Трамп підтримує
If President Trump supports such an idea, we will be grateful. President Erdogan, I'm sure, will support it too, because during our conversation he said he wanted a meeting between four: President Erdogan, President Trump, myself and Putin. We are ready for such a meeting any day.
President of Russia Vladimir Putin has rejected Ukraine's proposal for a ceasefire and cast doubt on the possibility of holding high-level talks amid recent military escalation. Speaking at the government meeting, Putin pointed to recent Ukrainian strikes on Russian military infrastructure, including coordinated attacks on 4 airfields on June 1st. According to reports, over 10 strategic bombers, which are key element of Russia's nuclear triad, were destroyed.
і в то же время
At the same time, they ask for a ceasefire for 30 or 60 days. They ask for a summit, but how is it possible to make such meetings in these conditions? What is there to talk about? How can we negotiate with those who rely on terror? With terrorists, why should we encourage them by giving them a pause in fighting?
Shortly after Putin's remarks, US President Donald Trump revealed he had a phone call with the Russian president lasting 1 hour and 15 minutes. Trump described the conversation as good, but added it was not the kind that leads to immediate peace. Poland's new president-elect is expected to continue the conservative course set by his predecessor Andrzej Duda, including the use of a veto power to block liberal reforms proposed by Prime Minister Donald Tusk's government. Karol Nawrocki, nominated by the right-wing opposition party, won last week's presidential election by a narrow margin. Under Poland's constitution, the president is elected for a 5-year term, serves as a commander-in-chief, appoints the government and has the authority to veto legislation. In a political system where power is shared with the minister, the presidency can be both symbolic and highly consequential. So, what does this election outcome mean for Poland's democracy, its future relations with the European Union, and the balance of power in one of the NATO's most strategically important member states? All the answers in our next report.
My dears,
Zwyciężyliśmy!
we won.
Even before the final votes were counted, pro-European liberal politician and Warsaw mayor Rafał Trzaskowski began celebrating what he believed was a victory. But the celebration was short-lived. Trzaskowski miscalculated. In the second round of Poland's presidential election, he narrowly lost by less than 2% to the candidate from the right-wing opposition. 42-year-old Karol Nawrocki, a historian with no prior political background, is Poland's new president-elect. He defeated his liberal rival by just 370,000 votes. Throughout the campaign, Nawrocki made it clear he intends to continue the conservative course of outgoing President Andrzej Duda, who frequently used his veto power to block legislation from Prime Minister Donald Tusk's pro-European government. Analysts say had Warsaw Mayor Trzaskowski won, it would have given the Tusk administration a freer hand to push through liberal reforms including changes on abortion laws and minority rights.
So Poland has this mixed model when indeed the president's role is to represent Poland, is more ceremonial, but also he can veto the drafts of law that are being passed by the parliament. So he has a direct influence on what reforms, what laws are coming into force. And still, I mean, there is on the way, and it was one of the promises, very important promises, to restore the rule of law according to the judgments of the European courts. It's not going to happen because Karol Nawrocki can and will block all the reforms.
President-elect Karol Nawrocki is widely seen in Poland as a Eurosceptic, but with a difference. Unlike other regional skeptics, such as Slovakia's Robert Fico or Hungary's Viktor Orban, Nawrocki remains firmly in support of military aid to Ukraine. That position, he says, will not change. However, Nawrocki has also made it clear that he opposes Ukraine's membership in NATO. He enjoys strong backing from US President Donald Trump and has openly endorsed Trump's political views. The two met last month. Analysts say Nawrocki's victory marks a win for all European conservatives who take inspiration from Trump's agenda.
So Nawrocki is definitely pro-Trump. He was obviously showing it during the electoral campaign. He is, I would say, in the line, even maybe more radical in his thoughts about the European Union than Meloni, but stands somewhere next to Orban. So also it's a very difficult situation for the European Union and for the model of the European Union.
The newly elected president has expressed skepticism toward Brussels' policies on energy and migration. Analysts say Karol Nawrocki is also likely to limit the government's room for maneuver in foreign affairs. However, Poland's charge d'affaires in Kazakhstan, Mikhail Labenda, remains confident that the country's overall foreign policy direction will remain unchanged. He also emphasized that no tensions are expected between Warsaw and Brussels, including within the framework of Poland's EU commitments.
You have to remember that Poland is a parliamentary republic. So the leading voice in the internal and external policy, it's in the hands of the Prime Minister. According to the Constitution, the government shapes all the policies of the country in cooperation with President. President has his right to veto any law which was proposed by the Parliament, but the Parliament has also the right to reject this veto in his works.
Voters across the political spectrum in the capital, Warsaw, voiced sharply contrasting views, reflecting a deeply divided electorate. Karol Nawrocki's narrow victory, with 50.89% of the votes, suggests that at least half the country is clearly dissatisfied with the outcome.
But how small this margin was, it tells us how divided we are, almost split in half as voters.
I think we should have at least 3 candidates, because many polls unfortunately chose the lesser evil for them. I respect the choice of each voter. We are kind of 50-50 practically. I hope that the president will be above all this and will provide us with a safe future here in Poland.
Be that as it may, both candidates pledged in their speeches to build bridges in a divided society. Now the task of uniting a polarized Poland falls on the shoulders of Prime Minister Tusk and the newly elected president.
These elections are very important because the turnout was very high, and the president-elect, the winning candidate, he almost reached the record victory of Lech Walesa during our first democratical presidential elections. So this is the sign of the true democratic campaign.
Today, Poland stands as one of the largest and most influential members of the European Union. It is rapidly expanding its military capabilities and plays a key role on NATO's eastern flank. In this sense, while the outcome of Poland's presidential election may not dramatically shift the country's foreign policy, it certainly sends a strong signal to the outside world about the prevailing mood in this part of Europe. Daurinas Agulov, New Time. The second term of Donald Trump could mark a turning point in U.S. relations with Central Asia, said Daniel Runde, Senior Vice President at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. In an exclusive commentary to New Time, he called for the repeal of the Jackson-Vanik Amendment, a Cold War-era law he described as outdated and damaging to America's credibility with the middle powers like Kazakhstan. Runde also added that the amendment continued to cast a shadow over U.S. engagement in the region, despite Kazakhstan's growing role as a strategic partner.
I think President Trump's second term is the best opportunity for a deeper partnership with Kazakhstan in more than 25 years. This is probably the best president Kazakhstan could have for a renewed partnership. And I want to encourage the leaders of Kazakhstan to seize this opportunity. President Trump wants to sign commercial transactions. He just signed something close to $1 trillion worth of transactions in the Middle East. I would love to see Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan partner together on putting together a package of transactions that would lure President Trump to come to Kazakhstan to sign such an agreement.
A recent executive order by U.S. President Donald Trump aimed at restricting visas for international students, though swiftly blocked by a federal court, has reignited uncertainty across America's student community. While the legal measure hasn't taken effect, its message has left ripples of concern, particularly among students from countries like Kazakhstan, studying at top-tier institutions like Harvard University. In response, Kazakhstan's Ministry of Science and Higher Education has addressed those concerns directly. In an official statement, the ministry confirmed that 7 Kazakhstan scholars are currently based at Harvard, 5 of them pursuing master's degrees through the Bolshak International Scholarship Program, and 2 undertaking scientific internships. Officials stress that they have been closely monitoring the situation and are prepared to act if any student rights are affected.
The Ministry of Science and Higher Education, together with the Center for International Programs, continues to monitor the situation closely and is committed to supporting all Bolshak scholars. Measures are in place to protect their academic rights and ensure uninterrupted study according to approved calendars and contracts. If any disruptions occur, the center will work with authorities to relocate affected scholars to accredited institutions in the US or other countries matching their academic specializations.
While Kazakhstan's Ministry of Science and Higher Education has pledged close monitoring and support for its scholars in the US, uncertainty still lingers on campuses. International students, including those from Kazakhstan, are navigating a tense environment shaped by shifting policies and political rhetoric. Talgat Kabdegali, a senior studying government at Harvard, shared with the New Time that while initial protests and fears sparked unease, the university leadership has worked to reassure students. He described a campus atmosphere where students remained cautious but hopeful, trusting in the legal process and institutional support to protect their academic futures.
That's the first time there was some kind of protests and meetings, I would say, saying that they don't support President Trump and his administration. But with our president, Alan Garber of the university, he just gave us, I would say informally, a bit of hope that everything is gonna get better. And we already resolved one of the cases and one of the issues in the district court. So there is hope for the future response that would be effective for us.
Kazakhstan has made tennis history at Roland Garros. Alexander Bublik reached the quarter-finals after a remarkable win over world number 5 Britain's Jack Draper. Bublik became the first male player representing Kazakhstan to reach this stage of a Grand Slam tournament. In the quarter-finals, he faced world number 1 Jannik Sinner. Despite a valiant effort and nearly 2 hours on the court, Bublik fell to his top-ranked opponent and exited the competition. Meanwhile, in women's doubles, Kazakhstan is also making headlines. Anna Danilina reached the semi-finals in the double competitions. Partnering with Alexandra Krunic, the Kazakhstan-Serbian duo overcame one of the tournament's strongest pairs to secure their first ever appearance in the top 4 of the French Open. That's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next week.